So Warzone got a new game mode, Stimulus Solos, and it is absolutely wild. It's by far and away the most fast-paced game mode in Warzone right now, especially for solos players. You can drop some crazy high kill games and enjoy some of the most fast-paced action Warzone has to offer. This video is going to be dedicated to a comprehensive review of this game mode and how to win it. The first part of this video is going to be an explanation of the game mode, covering the specifics and differences between this and regular solos. The second half is going to be my personal guide for success and wins in this mode. As you'll see, I've already had my first win in this mode, so I feel like I'm in a good position to share my advice. If you want to skip ahead, then the timestamps are in the description for the various sections of this video. A lot of people think that the only difference between Stimulus Solos and normal solos is the fact that it's a cash-based respawn, but there are a lot of other subtle changes as well. But first, I'll cover the big difference. Stimulus Solos gets rid of the GULAG completely. When you die, there's no 1v1 for respawn. Instead, respawns are based on the cash you have on your person. You need $4,500 to redeploy. This happens completely automatically. Now the best thing about this entire setup is that you can respawn an infinite number of times. With the traditional GULAG system, you only get one chance to redeploy, and that's it. The unique thing about this mode is that so long as you have enough cash on your person at the time of death, you will respawn automatically. It doesn't matter if it's your first time or your 10th. You don't need to go to a buy station or anything. It's totally guaranteed respawn. Now the traditional GULAG system stops you from respawning once the 20-minute timer is up, and the same goes in this scenario. At 20 minutes and 15 seconds after the match begins, respawning is off the table, so from this point on, no matter how much money you have on you, you aren't coming back. The same goes for if you fall below the $4,500 respawn cost. If you die with less than this amount on you, you'll be going back to the loading screen without a second chance. Dying in general knocks the $4,500 respawn price off of your cash, as well as half of the rest of your money. As you'll see here, I die with $28,300 on me. Knock $4,500 off of that and you get $23,800, and then you lose half that, leaving you with $11,900. This means that you get a cash reward for killing players, but you yourself don't lose everything on death. Respawning sees you appear in the sky at a random point on the map, although it is usually within 1,000 meters of your point of death. When you spawn for the first time, you have $4,500 on you, so even if you die right at the beginning of the match, you still have one guaranteed respawn. This is one of the other subtle differences, as you don't have to spend this money on a respawn if you don't want to. You can happily run to a buy station to grab plates and a cluster strike if you're feeling confident. The choice is yours. Cash in general sees a major change in Stimulus Solos, as there's so much more of it to go around. Both the amount of cash spawned and the amount of cash you can find increase. 5k pouches are now obtainable anywhere on the map. Cash is quite literally everywhere in this mode, so don't worry about saving it up for anything. If you fall below the $4,500 respawn requirement, then the cash meter will go to its normal plain state. Once you're above it, however, you get an alert on screen that states redeployment secured, and the cash meter takes on a yellow hue. That's it for the differences between this mode and regular solos. While it can seem confusing at first, once you've played a few games, you get a good grasp of it all fairly quickly. Now in this section, I'm going to be covering my personal tips and tricks when going for wins in this game mode. One overriding rule that I want to get across first though, is that you cannot treat it like regular solos. It plays completely differently. You tend to find that players are much more aggressive in this mode, and there's far more movement around the map. Everyone loses part of the fear of dying because the respawn is completely certain, and you need to be prepared to deal with the results of this. The likelihood of you running into enemy players jumps even higher when you factor in that multiple respawns players can take advantage of. This means that the actual player count for the match remains consistently higher for the entire game. As a result, the concentrations of players gets much higher, much faster. You need to be ready to deal with enemies at all times, as it's more than likely to happen. This needs to be a constant factor in all of your in-game decisions. With that out of the way, the first crucial bit of advice I want to give you is to get a loadout as soon as possible. If you don't have perks or custom guns in this mode, you're in for a rough time. The sheer amount of cash available to players in Stimulus Solos means that far more people will get a hold of loadout drops. This means that there's far more specialised firepower and well-equipped players that you need to deal with. If you don't have a loadout, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. More players will have their ideal setup, so you're going to want yours to level the playing field. More players will be using their perfect class and playstyle, meaning aggressive players are more aggressive and camper players more campy. It is also important to get one quickly due to the increased player density this mode creates. As there are more players than ever before in tighter rings, calling in a loadout only gets more dangerous the longer the game goes on. The odds of you surviving calling in a loadout and drop off at a very fast rate. For these reasons, grabbing your ideal setup early doors is more important than ever. Tip number 2 is don't hold on to masses of cash for no reason. You can find yourself having tens of thousands of dollars in this mode pretty easily, and you should use it. With more cash going around, there'll be more UAVs, kill streaks and everything else. You don't want to place yourself at a disadvantage by holding on to money pointlessly. Whilst it may be daunting to have a load of money on you, and you may want to save it for late game, you won't make it there if you don't put it to good use. Everyone else will be spending their money to give themselves an edge, and you need to do the same to keep up. This is especially true late game when the cash respawn is disabled. At this point, you aren't coming back, so any cash you have is best off being put to good use elsewhere. Given that you lose half of your remaining cash when you die, you're definitely better off spending it than giving it to an enemy. Tip number 3 follows closely to the previous one, and that is never fall below the $4,500 redeploy price whilst respawn is still available. You never know when you're going to get ambushed by another player, come across a camper, or maybe just step on a claymore. Without the $4,500, that's the end of your game right there. Given that it's so easy to keep this amount of cash in your pocket, there's no real reason not to. Burning your cash on a UAV, plate or anything else will come back to bite you if you're caught off guard and your game ends prematurely. Carrying on with the theme of money, tip 4 is to be extremely wary of buy stations. Any player with any sense knows there's more money to go around in this mode, and that means more players will be spending it. Players know that the only place this can be done is at buy stations. They become a hub of foot traffic, and players will exploit this. Campers love to set up shop overlooking buy stations, as they're going to leave you exposed and represent an easy kill. Now I know I've already recommended making use of buy stations, and I still do. You just have to be careful. Take extra precautions when making a move towards a buy station. Scope out the area, check obvious spots for campers and make sure you're not going to get picked off by a sniper mid-purchase. I appreciate that you cannot always know everything, and sometimes you will get caught out, but the more careful you are, the less likely this is to happen. This advice applies even when you're moving through an area and a buy station happens to be nearby. They act like magnets to players, and I'd say you're most likely to run into random players near them, so be prepared. Number 5 is a loadout specific tip, but one that is so unimaginably important that it deserves its own section, and that is to run Ghost. More cash in this mode means more people calling in UAVs. You're going to hear hundreds called in over the course of a match, and this only ramps up late game when players are burning their cash as they can't respawn. If you're on that UAV, that places you at a general disadvantage anywhere. Having multiple players know where you are and you not know their location will not end well for you. You'll either come across an enemy you weren't expecting, or worse, you'll be actively targeted by players looking to pick up kills. I would absolutely say that staying as stealthy as possible is more important than ever. I'll actually throw in the added tip here that suppressors are also mandatory for the same reason. There's no point running Ghost without one, as you'll just end up exposing yourself whenever you go for a gunfight. This simply increases the likelihood of you getting targeted by additional players, and means you lose any stealth advantage you had going into a fight. You simply cannot run one without the other. Number 7 is don't respawn where you died. If you do die, it can be super tempting to go straight back down and try and get your loot back. The problem is that 9 times out of 10 this doesn't work out. Since characters now give callouts as to when players are parachuting in, you'll more than likely get picked off on your way down. Plus, whoever killed you knows there's a high likelihood you will respawn and will be on the lookout for you. Plenty of times I myself have killed the same player coming back for loot. The allure of getting your entire setup back is strong, but realistically it's not going to happen. You're much better off landing far out into the bush, on the edges of the ring or in a deserted area. Loot up there, then get back into the fight. A pistol versus a fully equipped player doesn't usually end in your favour. The next thing I want to cover is check your corners. This is tip 8. Now I'm not sure if it's to do with more money going around or whether it's to do with more respawns late game, but every building you enter may well be home to a camper. More times in this mode than ever before, I've come across players entrenched in buildings in completely random locations. Countless times a player with a pistol has charged me out of some dark corner. Now while you can deal with these players the majority of the time, if they catch you at low health or off guard, it can be a major issue. I think it's quite likely that late game respawns leave players with little other choice than to hop back in and hope to pick up an easy kill. Don't let this be you. Take that extra time to clear buildings properly and be on the lookout for hidden players. A player you can't see can cause you a world of pain at close range if you're not prepared. The last tip I want to give you for succeeding in this mode is to get your movements done either super early or super late. There's simply so many players at all times that getting caught out in a weak position is more dangerous than ever before. If you can move early to where you want to be, whether it's to pick up kills or stay ahead of the ring, this will save you from the hordes of players behind you. Your other option is to move as late as possible, staying with the ring and coming up behind the majority of players ahead of you. Both have their disadvantages. If you're a late runner, you're permanently on the back foot. If you're not careful, you can end up being forced onto entrenched players and be forced to move by the ring. If you move ahead of time, you can end up with far too many players coming your way that you simply can't deal with. You need to find a balance that works for you, and often Oftentimes this is highly dependent on the state of the ring, your landing spot and everything else. So long as you pick a logical, coherent strategy, you'll have the best chance possible of coming out on top. Make sure you don't get bogged down in one particular area and stay on the move to avoid players getting the drop on you. Stimulus Solos is an exciting, fast-paced and intense game mode. It offers you more person-to-person combat than traditional solos and rewards an aggressive playstyle. You need to always be on your toes, prepared to deal with far more enemies than you normally would have to. You need to get equipped fast and make the most of the vast amount of cash you've got to hand. The cash respawn system offers a nice, guaranteed second chance in case you die. This certainly allows you to play far more aggressively, take more risks and thrive knowing you can come back for round 2 if you go down. You need to approach this mode differently to get the most out of it, as it just plays in such a unique way, but it is possible for anyone to have great success in this mode, provided you're willing to adapt your playstyle to suit it. I hope this video has been at least of some help to you, and with these tips and guidance you can improve your Stimulus Solos performance. These have all just been my opinions though, so feel free to make your own adjustments and changes to suit your playstyle.